Just send me that after.
All right. I don't think there's any. Oh, I think we have a couple more people in the waiting room, actually. Okay. Well, hi, everybody. Thank you for joining this session today on CPT, OPT, and co-op for CEAS international students. My name is Kelly Plazabat. I'm a program coordinator in UC International. And we have James Tenney here from UC International. He's going to give the CPT, OPT information, and we have Willie Clark here as well to talk about some co-op opportunities in CEAS for international students. So I'm going to kind of monitor the chat. If you have any questions throughout, you can feel free to drop questions in there. And then we can have some Q&A at the end as well. But James, if you just want to go ahead and get started, I'll give you the floor.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Kelly. I appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is James Tenney. I'm with UC International Services, and I'm excited that you're here. Give me 1 second here to share my screen. So I have some slides here for you guys to peruse while I do my spiel. And so let's get that up there. Share. And up there. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. Kelly, can we see this?
Yep, we're good.
All right, excellent. So again, my name is James Tenney. I'm with UC International Services, and we're going to cover a little bit today about CPT and OPT. I believe most of you are in CEAS and are involved in the co-op program. And so we're going to really talk a little bit more about the co-op requirements and how to participate in that. As you go through your co-op experience at UC, at some point, you may want to take part in a practical experience or employment opportunity that may take place on or off campus that's going to qualify you for co-op credit. And also then you're going to graduate, hopefully at some point, and may want to further your employment and practical experience here in the US. And so we're going to talk about two main forms of work authorization that will allow you to take part in those experiences or trainings. This is me again. And then also we are talking today a little bit about CPT and OPT. We will have some questions at the end, or some time available at the end for some questions. This is our location. Let's see if I can get that out of the way there. This is our location here on campus, Edwards Center 1. There's always advisors here. If you want to walk in and talk to someone, give us a call or send us an email. All right. So, and we're here Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. When the campus is open. Obviously, we're not open on Friday because the campus is closed on Friday for Remembrance Day. Now, quick reminder, as an F1 student, any off-campus employment requires a work permit. If you're working on campus, you're automatically approved for that particular kind of on-campus employment. But off-campus requires some form of work permit. And for today's discussion, we're going to be talking about two forms of what's called practical training. Practical training is a legal means by which students can take part in an employment or experiences that are connected and required for their academic field of study. Practical training can also help them attain some work experience for after graduation. There are two main types of practical training. And if I'm going too quick, I apologize, but we'll have the slides and everything available for you after the presentation. And this is also being recorded so you can view these on your own time here. But in the interest of making sure that I give Willie time to talk about his stuff as well, I mean, you make sure I get through this stuff here so you get the information that you need. Again, there are two forms of practical training: optional practical training, OPT, or curricular practical training, or CPT. In general, students must have completed at least one academic year, approximately 30 weeks, in the US, in full-time classes, in F1 status at the time they apply to qualify for any of these work permits. So if you just arrived here last August and you're in classes right now full-time, that's good. If you're in classes again full-time in the spring semester, that's even better, because then at that point in the summer, sometime in late April, early May, you would qualify to start using optional practical training and curricular practical training. You can apply for these before the 30 weeks is up, but you can't start them until the 30 weeks is up. And so if you just arrived in August, you're going to qualify sometime next April or May of 2023 at your earliest. All right. F1 students. So we have OPT and CPT, some key differences here. OPT is anything that is in your field of studies either before or after graduation, and it is a work permit issued by the Immigration Service. As the title suggests, optional practical training. This is good optional work in your field of study. It's not required for anything, but maybe you have an opportunity to go work somewhere and gain some experience in your field of study, and you think it would be useful. Most students will save the optional practical training, the OPT, for after graduation, because that's when you're going to want to use most of it. It's the only it's the only version of practical training that can be used after graduation. CPT is curricular practical training, and as this title suggests, it's for something that is going to meet your curricular requirements. So perhaps you are in a co-op program, which most of you are, or you have a required internship for your program. This is something that you can apply for CPT for. CPT is authorized by our office for those strict curricular needs. For OPT and CPT, there are some differences here. Everyone gets 12 months of optional practical training, no matter what degree program you're in. If you're in a STEM field, you can apply for a 2-year extension. We won't cover that in too much detail because most of you will be starting off with your CPT first for your co-ops, and then we'll be experiencing the use of your OPT for those initial 12 months. And things could change greatly over the next few years as you pursue your degrees and you get close to using your STEM extension. CPT is only available before graduation and is determined by program requirements. So for example, if you're an undergraduate engineering student, I know we're in CEAS here, you will do at the end of the day 18 months of co-op, and so you could be approved for 18 months of CPT. And we'll talk a little bit more about other restrictions that may apply to you later on, but there's nothing stopping you from getting 18 months of curricular practical training for each of your co-op appointments if you happen to be in that kind of program, like a co-op program of some kind. Okay. Other key differences for optional practical training, you take 90 days to process and apply for the work permit, and there's a $410 fee per application. For CPT, there are 5 business days to process all applications, and this is 5 business days after your co-op advisor has approved their part of the process, and there is no fee. We'll talk about the steps here in just a few minutes about CPT. Okay, so let's delve in more into curricular practical training. Again, curricular practical training is designed to give you a practical experience, training opportunity, or even employment that's fulfilling a degree requirement. It's not just a great opportunity to get the work, it's something that you need to do in order to graduate. Co-op, for example, falls in that category. And so if you're in a co-op program or you're in a program that requires internships, CPTs are going to be what you want to apply for. Now, it's for not just employment, it's any practical experience, any training opportunity that will meet your curricular requirements. And so whether it's paid or unpaid, if it's an EEP or an actual job somewhere on or off campus, it's qualifying you for the co-op credit, you will need CPT. And so again, if you're going to do an EEP one fall semester as part of your co-op requirements, that's going to require CPT to cover you for that particular semester. So keep that in mind. If you're doing something for co-op, you should refer back to our office at some point so we can help you with the CPT process. There are no excuses for forgetting, so to speak. The Immigration Service doesn't like people who forget how to do this process. So if you're going to start your co-op program, let us know so we can advise you on what you need to do to make sure you're covered for the Immigration Service for your co-op training. Okay. Again, in order to be qualified for CPT, you must have been here for at least 1 academic year in the US and currently be in F1 status. Some of you may be in H4 status or other statuses right now. As long as you have studied for at least 1 full academic year and you are in F1 status at the time you apply for the CPT or the OPT, you're going to qualify. And so if you're someone who's in one status at the moment and you want to change your status somewhere down the road, that's a possibility, and you would still be eligible for OPT or CPT. Graduate students have an exception to this. This is not the case for CEAS, but if you are ever in a graduate program that requires everyone, including Americans, to begin their co-ops sooner than that first year is over, then you can also obtain CPT for that purpose. Once you do have to wait for your CPT to be approved. If you get a job offer today and you want to start next Monday, it's going to take us at least 5 business days to process the application after your co-op advisor has approved their part of our process. And so keep in mind, you're probably not going to start on Monday or Tuesday of next week. There will be a slight delay before you can begin. Just because you've entered in Monday as a start date doesn't mean we're going to give you Monday as a start date. So keep that in mind. Now, as we said earlier, you are not limited to the amount of CPT that you can utilize. As long as your academic department says that you're still meeting an academic need, we can help you apply for CPT. Now, there is a little bit of a catch here, though, because this is the US government. If you engage in 1 year, 365 days of full-time CPT or more, you are no longer eligible for OPT for when you graduate. You can do 11 months and 29 days of full-time CPT, and you would still have full-time OPT available to you for all 12 months for after graduation. So again, if you're in a co-op program, you're going to have 5 semesters of co-ops, most likely. And by law, you could get CPT for each of those semesters to help you finish those academic requirements. But once you cross over 365 days of full-time CPT, even though we can give you more CPT, that will eliminate your eligibility for OPT. Anything that is credit-bearing for co-ops needs CPT, including EEPs and other volunteer unpaid positions. If they're taking place here in the US and you're taking this as part of your co-op program, you're going to be using CPT. We'll talk in a few minutes about what you can do to stop yourself from going over those 365 days of full-time CPT if having OPT is your desire for after graduation. To submit your CPT request, we have an e-form in iBearcats Global called CPT. You fill in the details of the job that you have, attach your offer letter, and then you click submit to that application. When you click submit, you're going to be making sure that you list your co-op advisor as the academic advisor on the CPT form. And then once your co-op advisor gets an email from us saying, please verify the details, they're hopefully going to approve it because they are aware of what it is you're doing for your co-op. And then we get access to that e-form. It'll take us 5 business days to process that e-form, and then we'll issue you a brand new I-20 that shows where and when you can work based upon your CPT. Or if you're doing an EEP or research, when that particular term is taking place, so you're currently on that CPT. All right. Now, as we said earlier, that 1 year rule is kind of tough. It's a bit of a catch. And so again, if you're not concerned about having OPT for when you graduate, by all means, use all 5 co-ops here in the US utilizing your CPT. But if you do want to save some of your time, save some of your CPT so you have the opportunity for OPT for when you graduate, then there's a couple of things you could try to do here. First of all, if you're going to do a co-op outside the US, if you're not working for a US company overseas, if you're not working in the US, if you're not doing your EEP in the US, et cetera, you still can apply for co-op and take part in those experiences. You still need to fill in the CPT form in iBearcats Global, but you're going to check the box off that indicates that you're working overseas. When we see that, we can then keep your CEAS record open, keep your immigration record open, but we're not going to issue CPT because we have verification that you're going to be outside the US for the entire semester of your experience. So let's say you're going to work for P&G based here in Cincinnati, and you're going to stay here in the US. You're going to need CPT. If you're going to work for P&G and they're going to send you overseas and pay you from P&G here in Cincinnati, you still need CPT. But if you're working for a company that's located overseas and it's an overseas company and you're there overseas doing the work, you don't need CPT. And so while it will qualify for co-op credit, you're not using CPT for that particular semester. Another alternative to help you take part in co-op while not utilizing all your CPT before you graduate is you could use some of your OPT now before graduation. This is a little riskier, but it's certainly very doable if you plan ahead. If you come see us about 3 months before your co-op term is going to begin, you can apply for OPT without a job offer, and we can help you get the work permit for those 3 or 4 months of that particular semester. Then when January rolls around, let's say you're doing your co-op in the spring semester, you'll have a work permit available in your hand that will let you go do this work experience and get the co-op credit here in the US. That does mean it's deducted from the OPT that you have available for after graduation. So if you use 3 months of pre-completion, pre-graduation OPT now, then you're left with roughly 9 months of post-completion OPT for when you graduate. But it's certainly better than having 0 OPT for when you do graduate. So those are a couple of options available to you. What we tend to advise students when they first arrive here is perhaps do your first couple of co-ops overseas with a company or an employer in your home country. And then when you're here in the US for your final 3 or so co-ops in the US, do those with a US employer that you have some hopes for long-term employment. That way you can use your CPT for those 3 semesters, still have time left, and then apply for optional practical training, maybe with the same employer. And so keep that in mind if you're in your program of study fairly early and you're looking at CPT or co-op opportunities to begin next summer or beyond, maybe you can do a couple overseas first and then return to the US and complete the rest of the co-ops in the US. Okay. OPT, simply put, is you get 12 months of optional practical training after every higher degree level. So if you are graduating with a bachelor's degree right now, you're eligible for 12 months of OPT. If you come back to UC or go somewhere else and get a master's degree, you can get another 12 months of OPT. You can't, unfortunately, stockpile these amounts. And so, for example, if you graduate with a bachelor's and go straight into a master's and don't use any OPT after your bachelor's, you only still get 12 months of OPT after you complete the master's degree. You can't combine those 2 amounts to benefit your master's degree. If you're in a STEM field of some kind, you are eligible for a 24-month extension of your 12 months of OPT. So during your 9, 10, 12 months of OPT, whatever you have left, if you use some of them during your degree, you can apply for a 2-year extension if you are in a STEM field and your company happens to be in something called the E-Verify system. Don't worry about that too much right now. You've got plenty of time, first of all, to get through your CPT and your OPT. A second STEM period is possible after you complete yet another higher degree level in a STEM field. OPT is an application to the Immigration Service. You're applying for a work permit. It does cost a fee of $410 and can take 90 days to process. So again, you want to make sure you plan ahead. Also, it allows you to work in any job, anywhere in the US, as long as you're utilizing your field of study. So for example, a speech communication major would not be able to work as a computer programmer while on OPT. So keep that in mind as well. The application process, as we mentioned before, has a fee of $410 and a 90-day waiting period. And you begin that process by going through iBearcats Global by submitting the optional practical training e-form. We also have an instructional video here, linked here on the screen, that you can use to find out more information about OPT and the application process. Our process can take 5 business days to get you ready to apply for OPT. And once you have the materials, we'll also send you instructions on where to send those materials next to get the OPT card. Once approved, your OPT card is going to look a little bit like this one here. There'll be no fingerprint, but it'll have a start date and an end date of when you can work. Hopefully it goes on for 12 full months, and it'll have other key identifying features like your name, your picture, and perhaps your date of birth. Okay. One couple of things to keep in mind, as an F1 student, you always have what's called a grace period. So from the date you graduate, you have 60 days to depart the country, obtain a new I-20, or to apply for OPT. Don't wait that long to apply for OPT. Come see us 90 days before graduation to apply for OPT. But that same grace period exists after your OPT expires. So even though you can't work in the US after your OPT card expires after graduation, you do have 60 days to, again, obtain a new I-20 for a new program of study, or to file for a change of status, or to depart the US. Okay, 24-month STEM extension, again, is 24 months of an extension after your 12 months of OPT. Your degree must be in a STEM field, and your program in your employer must be in something called the E-Verify program. If you want to do a lot of research on this right now, you certainly can click on that link at some point and take a look at which employers currently are in the E-Verify program, although more and more are joining every day in that regard. STEM degree fields, here's a listing of what those kinds of majors would be that would qualify for a STEM field. This is a grouping of majors. If your I-20 just says engineering, it probably says something like computer engineering or aerospace engineering, or mathematics. It may say financial mathematics. And so this is just a grouping of majors, and your major may fall under that particular category. And so it's just not the only 10 majors that qualify. It's a grouping of majors that you may fall under. And so again, we have these listed on our website, and you can also look these up on the web as well if you do a search for OPT STEM fields. All right, we'll skip over this for now because it's a little far down the road for you. We're going to focus on CPT and OPT, and then we're going to go straight into, we've got a few minutes here in time for some questions before I hand this over to Willie Clark. Kelly, did you have any questions in the chat that I could address real briefly before we pass things on to Willie?
Yes, there were a couple of questions in the chat. When you're talking about CPT, somebody asked, does the 365 days include Saturdays and Sundays?
Yeah, it does.
Yes. Okay. And then if I have an offer for a co-op 90 days before the official start date, I can use OPT for that co-op period, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Pretty straightforward answers. Will I get some OPT allowance if I pursue a graduate degree after I work with my OPT period, post my undergrad degree, and then pursue the said graduate degree?
Okay, that's a little complicated for me from what I understand, but let me see if I can answer that for you. Let's say you graduate with an undergraduate degree, you get 12 months of optional practical training. If you don't use it, then you lose it and you go straight into a graduate program. Once you graduate from that master's degree, you can get 12 months of OPT. Regardless if you use OPT or not, if you go from one bachelor's program to a master's program, you're still eligible for OPT and CPT based upon that master's degree, the new degree. So I hope that answers the question there.
Okay, and then what if you work for a company that is based in the US and internationally, but you are not getting paid by the US branch? Do I still apply for CPT since I am getting paid by the international version of the company?
No, if you're being paid by the international branch of that company and you are overseas, then you don't need CPT authorized, but you still need to submit the CPTE form so we can keep your immigration record open.
Okay. And then other than the iBearcats form and the co-op advisor, who else needs to be informed of a co-op?
Just those two.
Okay. And then if I have enough CPT to cover part of a co-op experience, can I use both CPT and OPT on the same experience?
We do not recommend that. And here's why. Mistakes happen, delays happen. You may be wanting to think you'll use part of your CPT now and then part of your OPT for halfway through the semester. You run the risk of a gap taking place in your employment and then telling your employer and your co-op advisor, I'm sorry, I can't work for a week or two. And that may affect your ability to get the co-op credit. And so if you're planning ahead, use your CPT. If you know you don't want to use your CPT, plan ahead and use the entire semester of OPT. Don't run the risk of having a problem or a delay in something and you end up having to take a gap in your employment. Okay, Kelly, I think what we'll do here is we'll pause there for questions on the immigration side of the process. I want to make sure we give this to Willie so he has time to explain the co-op side of the process. And I'm sure maybe near the very end of his presentation, he and I can then field some questions about both the topics that have been covered here today.
That sounds great.
Hey, Willie, I'm going to unshare my screen. I don't think I needed to worry about that, but I don't know. Let's see what I do here. I don't know what I'm doing. Willie, go ahead and, oh, there we go. Stop share. Hey, Willie, it's all yours.
Thank you, James. All right, hopefully I shared that correctly. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
All right, thank you so much. Um, Before I go down into the presentation, I do want to drive a point home. And that point is whether you are an international student or you are a U.S. citizen, the vast majority of all students who come to the University of Cincinnati want co-op. That's the reason why they come here. That's the number one reason. And we know historically that the vast majority or a majority of our international students would like to extend as much time here to work in the United States to gain some professional experience. But one of the things I want you all to realize is that one of the hardest things for anybody to do, whether you're a U.S. citizen or not, is to get their first co-op. And so if you are hyper-focused on how you can save your time as far as OPT and CPT, what often happens is students get in trouble, right? They don't fully engage in getting there first, a co-op, and it causes issues. And we have some international students, because they delay the process or because they don't fully engage the process, because they do subtraction, 5 minus 2 is 3. And if I just do 3, then I can go ahead and do CPT and save my OPT. Please do not do that. So I just want to put that out there because that is a mistake that we see behind the scenes often. And so the trying to save your OPT can be relatively easy, and I can show you how you can do that. But getting your first co-op is hard for anybody, and there's additional challenges for international students. And so, and co-op is something very specific here at the University of Cincinnati. It's something that is in your industry, related to your major, 40 hours a week paid. You are assessed, you are mentored, you obtain academic credit, and that is a co-op. But one of the things I just said was one of the hardest things for folks to do is to obtain their first co-op, whether you're an international student or not. And so there's other opportunities that students can participate in that they can receive co-op credit for that can either help develop their skills, or they can do instead of or replace of their traditional co-op. I have a list here that's it talks about the actual opportunity, defines it, and provides the CPT and OPT implications for that. And so one of the things that you can do besides the traditional co-op is a service learning co-op. This can be, they're mostly off campus, but some of them can be on campus. They can be part-time or full-time. And you're working with a nonprofit organization. And so what does this look like? For example, if you want to work, let's just say you're an IT major or a CS major or something like that. And then you want to do some web development or back-end development of a not-for-profit's an internal tech project, right? Now that's something that's directly related to your major. You're working with a nonprofit. It's not a traditional co-op, it's a service learning co-op. And so there are some CPT, OPT implications for that. Anything off campus or anything over 20 hours per week on campus requires CPT. A lot of our international students do participate in what we call an EEP, or experiential exploration program. And this is a 300 to 350 hours kind of project-based learning, career-based learning experience that either can help you develop some skills or allow you to pivot while still doing something that's directly related to your major that falls outside of the scope of a traditional co-op. Those things require CPT. You can do remote or gig work, either for full-time or part-time, and those things require CPT and OPT. So those are some things that students can do in addition to, or instead of, or in place of a traditional co-op. One of the things, because I made a statement not too long ago, about 3 minutes ago, about, hey, one of the easiest things you can do is, save OPT when you're planning. And the easiest way to do that is to work abroad. If you work in your home country, even though you have to submit the form and it doesn't count, towards your CPT. And if you work outside of your home country, you have to submit authorization, but it doesn't count towards your CPT. You can work abroad and you can save your OPT that way. And so if you're doing that simple math problem that I referred to earlier, 5 minus 2, if you do 2 terms abroad, then you're saving your OPT. And so we have a couple different programs to support students working abroad, because just like it's hard to find co-op employment here in the States, it's also difficult to find that abroad as well. And so one of them is our long-standing co-op program called ICP, and that's for students who either have or want to pursue a second language, or a language in German, French, Spanish, or Japanese. And so you can participate in the ICP program. You apply your sophomore pre-junior year. You'll be in country your junior year, and you'll come back for your capstone year. Another one is a 2-term experience in country. Another one is the International Experience Program. And that is a 1-term experience in a variety of different locations. We have locations from Singapore to London to Vancouver to Berlin. We are reopening other locations as a pandemic is waning, and visa processing is opening back up. But those are 1-term experience, and in that experience, the program works with the students in order to get them job, as far as the job search process, take care of housing, take care of visa, because your passport allows you to leave your home country, but a visa allows you to stay in the country in which you landed. And so we help you get your visa. Yes, you do have to submit CPT authorization, but it does not count towards your time. And then last but certainly not least, we kind of talked about this indirectly, is the worldwide co-op, and that's UC's label for if you do work in a location outside of your home country for a global company or international company independently outside of the 2 programs in which I just talked about, then yes, you can save your OPT and CPT. And of course you can go home and work, and what we want to do as far as talking about these opportunities is, if you go home, if you work in your home country, if you work abroad outside of your home country, and you work in the United States, you have just expanding your professional network in multiple different global regions. And so as we as a society goes, it inch closer and closer to this global workforce, is going to give you a competitive advantage, not only to work in the United States, but to work in your industry in different global regions around the world as well. You can do your EEP abroad, and you can also do a study abroad or exchange. And so these are some opportunities that you can also do instead of a traditional CPT and OPT. So I just want to put those things in your mind, that there's other things that you can do besides the traditional co-op or internship, and there's other ways that you can save your OPT and CPT. So let's get into the more traditional aspect of co-op. And so the hope, especially for traditional students who come here their freshman year and enroll in school, this will be the end of your first term if you're a freshman. So next term, you'll be taking intro to co-op. And this is the matrix as far as when you will be going out on co-op. And so for engineering and some IT majors, Some folks in IT, I know this is mostly engineering, or I think all engineering in this virtual meeting right now. But if you're in IT, some folks can start co-op as early as summer, but the vast majority of people will start co-oping fall or spring semester of their sophomore year. So what does that look like as far as a path that you want to break this down as in a granular, detailed way? So fall semester, if you are a freshman, you start taking your classes, and it's important for you to concentrate on building your GPA. It's important for you to start connecting with student organizations and to network. And so there's student organizations, there's professional organizations that you can network with, and those things are going to help not only, build a professional network, but also improve some of your language skills as well. Spring of your freshman year, this is your first official step, even though it won't feel like it, to get your co-op, and that's to take Intro to Co-op. Is our professional development course, where we are walking students through professional resume writing, interviewing skills, and success, and identifying, applying for, and obtaining a co-op. Still, you're in classes, or concentrating on being the best possible and keeping that GPA up is 100% something that you should do. Continue and grow in your roles as far as your participation in student organization, continue your professional and social networks. And some students at that point maybe thinking about having a campus job, doing some volunteer work and community service. Those are all things that can help you build your resume and expand your network. And I would say some IT students, but there's engineering in this place. And then your freshman year, a lot of our students do return home, not all. So if you're returning home for the summer, that's fine. Some of you will be remotely working with your co-op advisor to find or search for your first co-op while you are abroad, and some will not. And then when you come back next fall, depending on your major and depending on when you are approved to start your co-op, you could be working your fall semester, your sophomore year. And if you're not doing that, then you are definitely searching for your first co-op to begin spring semester of your sophomore year. So that's the detailed path of between now, a fall semester of your freshman year, and spring semester of your sophomore year, of how co-op would work. You would hear the job search process a lot from your co-op advisor and Intro to Co-op meetings like this. And when we're talking about job search process, we're talking about working with your co-op advisor in order to access, identify, apply for jobs. There's a couple different databases, and I have a couple slides to detail those things out. But they will teach you how to access those things, how to apply for jobs, and start sending your resume out to prospective employers. And that's called the referral process. They will also teach you and give you the tools and the resources to not only, look to the jobs that are already developed or will be developed by the institution and or your co-op advisor, but how to do these things independently as well. I used to tell my students all the time when I was a traditional co-op advisor, I'm going to develop jobs for everybody. You can develop a job for you. And I'm not, if you develop a job for you, I'm not going to give it to anybody else until you're done with it, right? And hopefully you do a good job so that employer will want to hire other Bearcats. And so teaching gives support to how to be successful in a career fair, how to access and be successful using a Handshake, which is an online platform. Career Shift is another platform that you'll be accessing to look for jobs. And there is always employer events at the University of Cincinnati. And there's other platforms as well, and I'll get to that in another slide. And then hopefully through your guided search with your co-op advisor, your independent search, you will land that job. And once you land that job, that is when you start going through the process that James was talking about. You submitting your authorization request in iBearcat Global, receiving your documents, and then starting to work. And that's the job search process. Resources. And so this is going to be the first time you hearing these things, but it won't be the last time. And so just want you all to know what these things are. And so when folk are speaking to you about, you can be knowledgeable. One, we have in our office, we have a proprietary database that's we do both learning assessment and job search, and that's called PAL. You have access to this once you pass intro to co-op and you are certified by your college to start co-op and working with your co-op advisor. Before then, you won't have access to it. But that is one of your first database that you will start looking at employers, looking at jobs, and applying for jobs. In addition to that, a close second will be Handshake. Everybody at the University of Cincinnati have access to Handshake, and so you can, and we encourage you to create your profile now and start looking in Handshake. And that's just another, platform that you can access career-related activities or career opportunities. Career Shift is another platform paid for. The College of Engineering pays for this for all students. And so you will be, and it's just a platform, it's just a tool, a digital tool for you to access opportunity as well. And your corporate advisor will explain how to leverage this opportunity so you can look for jobs. And then the University of Cincinnati has subscriptions to other platforms and job boards, one of which is Going Global. You can start looking for, employers that, provide H-1Bs. If you're interested in long-term working for employers that not only hire international students for co-op on CPT and OPT, but possibly, provide some H-1 path to an H-1B. Other, opportunities that UC has subscription for is My Visa Jobs, Uniworld, and H-1B Greater. And these are, again, other job boards and platforms that students can use in order to look at, analyze, and assess and find opportunities of employers that hire international students. This slide here is to give some, clarity about your resources and your support network, even on this call. You have academic advisors, you have co-op advisors, and you have international students advisors. One is with your college, there's your academic advisors, and they provide things like academic advising, who knew, course registration, and they are the ones who are going to certify you for co-op. And what that means is in January, February, when you start taking intro to co-op, your academic advisors are the ones that are going to look at your transcripts and make sure that you have passed the classes that you're supposed to pass, that you're taking the classes that you're supposed to take, and that you're in good academic standing, and therefore you can go and start your co-op search. Then you have, when that happens, you will get access to your co-op advisor, and they are housed within the Division of Experience-Based Learning Career Education. You also, a lot of us also teach intro to co-op. So you may, run into your co-op advisor is also your professor for that course. And they're the one who give you guidance and career coaching when it comes to career exploration, the job search, making sure that you're registered for your co-op, employment development. And once you obtain that, that co-op, they're the one who is verifying your employment for CPT and OPT. They're not processing, they're just verifying, like, yes, this is true. And then last but certainly not least, you have the folks over in UC International Services, and these are your international student advisors. And they're the ones who are working to support you as far as your visa status, your work authorization, life at UC, taxes, right? So you're going to be working co-op and you have to pay taxes because Uncle Sam won't his money, right? Always. And so they'll help you with that. And they're the ones who also are processing your CPT and OPT. And then you have other, resources through the Bearcat Promise Studio. And so not only do you have these three advisors that can help you in various aspects of your life, you also have access to the same, resources that any other student at the University of Cincinnati have in the Bearcat Promise Studios. And so they can provide you opportunities for professional career coaching, peer career coach, so you can work with another student, online tools, resume reviews, interview prep, workshops, and seminars that can kind of help continue to polish and reinforce and or teach you, new skill sets in regards to your professional and or career advancement. And so those are the nuts and bolts of life as far as co-op and the co-op process and how these things work. So I am new to Zoom, so I know I need to stop sharing and pass the mic to I guess the students to see what questions and comments have, and address any concerns that you have.
Okay, any questions, anyone? Excellent. We did a thorough job, Willie. Well, they all fell asleep. Not too sure.
Looks like there are many in the chat. If you want to open that up.
Yeah, I've taken a crack at most of them.
Yeah, I was
and
trying to keep track of which ones you've answered already and which ones were coming in recently.
there
So I
was one
see-
here. Yeah, there was one here that was definitely for Willie Clark. Here you go, Willie. What is the latest time to apply for CPT if I start January 9th? Oh, I'm sorry, I think I messed that one up. Well, Willie, we had a question here about what is the latest time I can apply for CPT, and I think I answered that by saying, don't leave it to the last minute. But is there part of the co-op process that one needs to go through at the very end before they apply for CPT? Is there a deadline for applying for co-op credit for an employer in the spring semester? Nope, you're muted. Willie, you're muted. There you go.
I know, because after 2.5, 3 years, I still can't figure it out.
Here.
So I don't know, there's a registration date, right? Because the very academic answer, the state tells us when students there's a deadline for students to register for classes. And I don't know when that date is. It's an October date. There's a late January date. But the asterisk or the but to all that is students get jobs late. There's always the first student and there's always the last student. And so undoubtedly there are students who receive their jobs after the first day of class, all right? And sometimes after the first week of class. That's not the norm, but it happens. And so when that happens, you have a team of folks within our department that can help you pivot from an academic semester to a work semester. And so I don't know, again, I don't know when that date is, but as soon as you accept that job, you really have to be hyper vigilant to make sure that everyone knows. All your advisors know, right? Your co-op advisor knows this, and so they can be ready to hit that button, in iBearcat once it's processed by your international service advisor, and that your academic advisors knows this, so they can help you pivot and, unenroll from the courses that you are enrolled in academically and make sure that you are enrolled in the correct co-op course. So there's a lot of things that happens if you get your job late, but, and there is a definite, deadline. I just can't remember when that is, but you have a team of support in order to make that happen?
On the immigration side of that, Willie's right. We're going to try and help you get that job and get you the authorization as soon as we can. January 9th, it's going to be a busy period for everybody. Some of your co-op advisors are not going to be back from vacation yet. My staff will be back from vacation, but we only would have reopened on January 3rd. And we've got 2 weeks of cases that have been mounting up during that time frame. So we're going to be pretty busy, and there's going to be a backlog. Then on top of that, we're looking at 500-600 new students arriving January 9th. We're going to be busy. And so in reverse of what, Willie was talking about getting a job offer late, how do you go about that process? We can handle that. What I think I want to also add on to him is if you have a job offer sooner rather than later, get that in. Don't wait until the 3rd of January to submit it. If you've had the offer for 2 or 3 weeks, as soon as you've had the offer made to you and you've gone through the co-op steps, and you've at least entered your information into their system, you get your CPTE form entered in there. We close for the winter break around December 22nd, and we won't be open again until January 3rd. And when we open January 3rd, we have to kind of triage, who is in an emergency situation. And while I definitely empathize with a job offer that starts the following Monday, if I've got a student who's stuck at the Chicago airport, I got to help that person get out of the airport. And so we'll get to it as soon as we can. We do work hard here. We are fairly quick. But phoning us and emailing us isn't going to make it go any quicker. It just slows us down because we think this email has to be answered. And so just keep in mind, if you get a job offer in December and you're going to start January 9th, don't wait until January 3rd or when we're closed to submit the request. Get that request in as soon as you have the offer. That way, Willie and his team have enough time to get it processed, and we have enough time to perhaps get it processed before the winter break.
Yeah. We have a couple questions in here, and one is to what you just spoke about. So just to be better as far as clarity, can I apply for CPT now? So if you have a job offer right now for spring, yes. If you have that job offer, you need to communicate that to your co-op advisor. You need to submit the information in iBearcat Global and start that process, and you'll be, registered for class and things of that nature. So the answer to that question is yes. Like I said, there's students that get there's always a first person or early person. There's always a late person. So if you're on the early end, congratulations. Get registered and tell your co-op advisor. Can you provide how to answer job application questions? All right. Can you provide a guide on how to answer job application questions related to immigration, such as whether you are authorized to work? The most simplistic answer is this: if you are a F1 student and you are a freshman, right? You don't need authorization in order to co-op, right? They're not sponsoring you. They can just hire you. So that's the clearest answer I can provide. Now I'm going to pass that to James. Is there a more technical way to answer that question?
Well, no, you want to be honest about it. And absolutely, the honest answer is no, you do not need sponsorship to work. And yes, you are authorized to work. And so when you encounter that question, Willie's right, you can say, yes, you are authorized to work. And you'll get that authorization as soon as you get your CPT. Some applications say, do you need sponsorship to work? And what they're talking about is, does the company need to go hire a lawyer or a firm to do an H-1B or some kind of employment visa for you? No, you don't need that. And so those are the two honest answers, and they're perfectly legitimate in that regard there.
When students apply for jobs outside the U.S., must they go through the UC International program? No. And so students can find jobs independently. Those programs were created to support students because it's hard, right? We just talked about a myriad of support and people that help students obtain jobs at UC and here in the stateside. And so that same infrastructure of support, that's why we have different international programs. So do you need to use that? No. In theory, you never have to talk to your co-op advisor. You can go out and find your own co-op and just walk up to them saying, hello, my name is, and I got this job, and go. So no, you don't have to use an international programs or that infrastructure in order to find an international opportunity.
Looks like the question here about, as long as I keep my 3 co-op terms, 52 divided by 3 equals 17 weeks per term, I'm fine, right? I think perhaps your question, if I'm wrong, correct me, are you fine? You're going to keep your OPT if you use CPT for all 3 co-op terms. The answer I'll give you is, as long as it's not more than 365 days of full-time CPT. I hesitate to use weeks because, some years February has 29 days, and I don't know what you're referring to weeks. And so I would just, keep it simple by saying 365 days of full-time CPT. If you use 364 days of full-time CPT, you're fine. As far as saying your OPT is going to be valid for when you graduate. Another question here, you mentioned seeking guidance from International Office about tax-related forms. What do we have to fill in before, and what exemptions would we qualify for? What I would tell you is, when you are approved for your CPT, you will get a long email from us. and so it will explain how to apply for a Social Security number. It will talk about Medicare taxes. It will talk about federal income taxes. Read that very carefully. It will explain how to fill in your tax forms when you start your job. But, if that form puts you to sleep, or it's been a couple of weeks since you look at that email and you had some very specific questions, let us know. We'll try to help answer those questions for you pertaining to your particular employment and your particular tax situation. Taxes are complicated. They're based upon what country you're from, how long you've lived here, who you're working for, how the funding's coming, how much funding. And so it's not quite like a flat tax where I can just say, yeah, this is how much taxes are going to be for you. And so follow those instructions and hopefully they'll take care of you. But if they're too complicated, let us know. That's what we're here for. I think there was an OPT question here. Would the answer to the immigration question matter if it was OPT? I think this goes back to are you authorized to work, or do you need sponsorship? If not, please clarify in your question. But if you have OPT, then you are authorized to work. If you have OPT, you do not need sponsorship to start this job. Okay, so everyone's using the term 52 weeks. Don't use that. Use the term 365 days of full time. We've got a question here. What is the minimum max number of weeks a person can work per semester to stay under 52 weeks? Will OPT require sponsor? Okay, so yeah, again, I'll just tell you again, when you're counting your CPT days, it's 365 days of full time. Don't use the 52-week equation. And as long as you're under that, then you're going to be fine.
And also, every academic semester is different, and the co-op calendar. And so there's a co-op calendar. Your co-op advisor will tell you, hey, this is day 1 of the co-op calendar. This is this is the first day. This is the last day. And so sometimes those differ. And so don't get into the week, like James said, get into the number of days. And the academic calendar is scripted, and the co-op calendar is scripted as well.
Okay, I think we've got time for one last question before we have to shut down and let everyone get on with their lives. Any last minute questions? Nope, there it is. Can we work more than the co-op calendar is for 1 semester? I think you're asking here, let's say the co-op semester is 15 weeks. The employer wants to keep you on for another week or 2, maybe beyond the semester. Some arrangements like that can be made. We will only issue CPT that meets the academic requirement. And so if your co-op advisor has advised us that, here you go, you're going to do spring semester, let's say it's 15 weeks, we'll issue 15 weeks of CPT. If your co-op advisor says, well, actually, an additional couple of weeks would be helpful to meet the co-op grade for the academic purpose, then we can issue CPT for those additional couple of weeks to help with your academic grade, your academic purposes. But if your co-op advisor feels, no, 15 weeks is enough for the grade, you don't need any more than that, then we're not going to be issuing CPT for those extra 2 weeks. Okay, really, there's one there for you, I think. Is there any way to be prepared for co-op in general? Well, this session helped, I hope.
So number one, good grades. Number two, do well in intro to co-op. And number three, when you are finally certified by your college to co-op and you are assigned and meet your co-op advisor, do everything. All right, because there's some things that are required, there's some things that are optional. Do everything, whether it's required, whether it's optional, you do it, you learn it. And so you can, you should, at the end of your first co-op job search, you should be an expert in PAL, you should be an expert in Handshake, you should be an expert in Career Shift, and you should have some fundamental understanding of how to use those platforms. And so that's the best advice I can give you.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Kelly. And if Christy's still around somewhere, thank you so much for setting this up.
Yeah, thank you both so much. And thank you to everyone who was able to join. This session was recorded as well. So we can send that out if you want to go back and watch, or know anybody else who would like to get this information. But thank you all again. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.